Hey, Demi, Margaret, it's such a pleasure to meet you both.
You too.
You too.
So first of all, I want to tell you I loved the film, The Substance. I thought it was dark, deep, emotional, with great social commentary as well. And every now and then it was unexpectedly funny too, which I thought was quite strange. So I'm quite happy to discuss the film with you both.
To the intensity.
Yeah, and I sure needed a lot of relief given all the grotesque body horror that was going on there. Demi, I'll start with you. This story is about an actress who can't deal with how the world responds to her age, right? Did this ring quite close to home for you, as it generally tends to for most actresses?
No, I mean, the reality is I'm not Elizabeth. I don't see myself as she saw herself at all. But I understand her. I understand, this is a woman who poured everything of her whole life into just her work and her career. She didn't really have family. She didn't have anything else. And I think that we all as human beings understand what it feels like to have despair, to feel rejection, moments of feeling hopeless, regardless of what's creating it. And in this case, it's, anchored into something because it's her age that feels that she can't do anything about, that it's something that's not within her control. And that idea that you then are looking to find anything that would give you some semblance of a grasp of controlling your life.
Yeah.
Hence the substance.
Yeah, I could have the both of you respond to this. Films, fashion, all of this is an industry that makes one's looks so important. And when you're part of it, it's very difficult not to define yourself by your looks, by your appearance on some level. Is that really hard not to do it? Because you know the pitfalls of doing that.
I mean, look, look, part of our instrument is our body, our look, but it's not ultimately as you were saying earlier, Margaret, it's that idea of where you put your focus. Like if that's where you're placing your value, then of course, what other people think are going to dictate your experience.
Being a part, I was going to ask you to press on it a bit further, or just being a part of this film. How would you say this has enhanced your own understanding of beauty and fame and insecurity and all the various complicated things that this film deals with?
Absolutely. Okay. I found the experience really hard. I've never played a character where where the kind of the character is how she looks, right? Like there isn't much depth there. She's really she's like representing, she's almost like an idea of a person. Like there isn't really a person inside of there. It was a really taxing experience for me. It was a real challenge. And I think maybe because of the landscape that we're addressing right now, I've been acting for 10 years now, and I've spent my time taking roles or trying to get parts where I was going to be taken seriously, where I was, smart, interesting, capable, and
beyond the looks,
and then I've kind of managed to have more nuanced parts throughout my time working. So taking on this part was kind of like the thing I'd never done, right? Like, all right, so what if it's just that? What if it's just about like, I got to try to like look hot and do a bunch of squats and like put on the boobs and do the makeup and present myself in a way that I'm not used to presenting myself. And also like embrace femininity, embrace sexuality. Like, what does that look like, right?
But this was a very particular idealized,
specific, like a very specific, Because the reality is like what I'm playing is Corley's interpretation of the male gaze, Corley's interpretation of what the male gaze interprets as. So it's a distinct version.
In a crucial scene when you're removing your teeth in front of the mirror, I thought there was a strange sense of relief, almost like you were reveling in it.
Well, that's kind of her trajectory. The most heart that I get to experience throughout the film is when she's becomes a fucking monster. You know what I mean? Because in the monster, she's like, it's me, like I'm beautiful, and I'm Sue, and it's this, because until that point, like she doesn't really have any depth. But as she kind of corrodes and falls apart, you end up finding the humanity within the person.
I mean, even as a man, there were certain things that really made me feel quite vulnerable about. Like, for example, the idea of aging, the idea of mortality on some extended level.
Yes.
How do you get used to it? How do you prepare for it? Because when you're young, and I know that Margaret, you're still young, but when you're young, you get the feeling that you're going to be young forever. Nobody prepares you for what's about to hit you. Right. So Demi, did it ever take you by surprise? How do you adjust to this idea?
What, of aging?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's part of the journey, right? It's part of the journey, and it's like looking at life through the lens of everything happening for you, not to you. And part of it is having, like, at each moment there is a certain acceptance, and it's also expanding your consciousness. So your awareness of is, yes, like what you may lose in skin laxity, you gain in depth and in wisdom and in compassion and in your loving. And so there's like those things that and I think it's also part of the acceptance is going, yeah, I don't really like, I don't love this or I don't love that, but it's okay. Is my life like it's when we make that, in a sense, our God. Like if I'm like, oh my God, this is like my life is now a disaster. And the truth is, it's not. Right? You don't have to like it all, but there's beautiful things that come with aging. And I think because we live in cultures that are so youth identified, and there's beautiful things in our youth that, we're still in discovery. And I think that the real thing is staying in the presence of the excitement of continuing to learn, continuing to grow, continuing to challenge ourselves. And then it becomes less about what the outside.
Yeah, I feel like I've just started digging into this film, but I'm told that my time is up. Okay. Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Lucy, for that.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, don't worry about it. It really feels that we could have a longer conversation about this, because the film is as meaningful and as are the people who are talking to me. But Demi, Margaret, thank you very much for talking to me.